Hi, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Gavel. I'm Rodney Peyton, and today I'm joined by Leo Lachs, who's the driving force behind InEgg. Now, Leo has transformed InEgg from its origins to a technologically driven business, and it specializes in clinical negligence and serious injury cases. He's got a background in sales and marketing, and he brings that entrepreneurial mindset to a sector which often struggles with efficiency, scalability, and the consistent management of things like expert witnesses. In our conversation, we're going to explore how Leo has reimagined the role of technology in legal practice, the importance of quality assuring expert witnesses, and the entrepreneurial principles that underpin growth in this highly specialized field. We'll also look ahead to the opportunities of expansion and discuss how firms can better prepare for scaling and exit. So whether you're a lawyer, a medical legal expert, or simply interested in the changing face of clinical negligence practice, this conversation is one you won't want to miss. So Leo, welcome to Beyond the Gavel.
Hi, Rodney. Good morning. It's nice to be here today. Thank you for inviting me on.
That's very, very kind of you to come. Leo, your career has been fascinating, and marketing is your background and your bread and butter, and that's where you were before you came to InEgg. So what lessons did you learn from that life that you have brought to shape the business you have today?
That's a really interesting question. I guess probably a good place to start, if I may, is not everyone in your audience may have come across us before. So just to highlight to them, InEgg is a bespoke boutique medico-legal agency. But as you kindly introduced, we think and we do things quite differently. We're here in one sentence to work with our solicitor clients on both sides of the fence to accelerate the claim lifecycle and reduce unrecoverable costs. And your question's a really important one because my background has been sales and marketing before I joined this industry. And I probably look back to a few key moments in my 15 or so years prior to joining this industry to work out what was the defining moment. And I was looking back and thinking about it, and one of my first jobs was with a private family business which used to deal in product rather than service as we do in our industry. And this gentleman was a self-made man. He came from nothing. He built up, and he had a huge group of businesses spanning many areas of consumables, business to consumer type consumables, wholesale. And he used to come into the sales office every day and to the whole sales team, thought, speech, action. And he was a very charismatic gentleman. And I think if I probably have to pick one single message that I've learned in my entire career, that is probably the one which has stuck with me the longest. And I tell people throughout our organization as we've built our group of companies, this specific thing. Thought, it's very, very important to think about something. Speech, you have to discuss it with yourself and with colleagues. But actually the most important thing, which a lot of people fail to do, is the action. And that is what you're ultimately judged. And when I've built a business, and in recent times, we've tried to really bring together the core values of what makes us who we are. Our first one is own it and do what's right. And I think that comes from my sales and marketing background, where communication is key. Being honest with your client, with the person purchasing, using, or accessing your service, whether it's a supplier or the client. In our industry, the expert witnesses, the doctors, the consultants we work with, or the solicitors who we support and the insurers that we support. And it's very much communicate, be clear, be honest, be transparent, but actually do it. Do what you say. Don't overpromise, don't underpromise, but be clear with that communication. And I think the key message I've taken from my sales and marketing background is thought, speech, action. 3 very small words, but very, very clear meaning.
No, that's so important. And it's important in these days of AI. AI has a lot of information coming from everywhere, which is useless if you don't put it into action. And the other side of that is experience plus that AI is required. AI on its own, it can't really think it out. It can bring in lots of information, but you need that experience in the background. You add the AI to it, and then you take some action, and then you look at the action you've taken and see whether it is getting you towards your goal. Isn't that right? So it's that action step that so many people miss.
I agree. And on the AI point, I think it's a massive misconception, as in the legal space, there's so much talk about AI, as with many other sectors, but particularly our sector. But I often think people, as you've just mentioned, slightly miss the point. AI is only as good as what you put into it, the questions you ask it, how you work with it. And that's where the knowledge and the market knowledge of real humans come in. We are here to use AI as a tool to assist us with our job, to make us more efficient. It's something that we've been doing a lot of across INEG and our company. It's not changing our work and it's not replacing our work, but it's allowing us to be better at what we do. And it's because we're asking AI the right questions, we're utilizing it in the right way, and we're building programs which will support the work we're doing rather than replace the work that we're doing.
That's right. It's about the reasoning. Human reasoning is still not in AI. And you need to have that expert knowledge to have that reasoning. So what are you saying are the pain points in what you do? You know, you've done that technology approach. What are the pain points with that, apart from, as we've just said, over-reliance on AI?
That's a really interesting question. The pain points in AI. I think I would probably take it back a step, as in, I don't think the pain points in AI are different from the pain points in any other aspect of your business, whether it's communication with your team, whether it's culture, whether it's growth, whether it's sales, marketing, or pure operations in terms of the service that you provide and facilitate. If you don't
So
use
what
it
has
right,
actually made the biggest impact as far as you're concerned? You came in with that background. What have you found has been the biggest impact? You've taken INEG and you've taken it right up there.
So the best thing that we've done and
Have
used
you
technology.
brought in to make the biggest impact?
Well, we launched a lot of technology when we came in. The INEG brand started back in 2008, and it was set up, as the name suggests, INEG. It's a play on the word clinical negligence. And it was set up by the previous owners to focus on the clinical negligence and catastrophic serious injury markets. And the previous owners were involved in what they called the good old RTA days, where supposedly the roads were paved with gold, and they were naturally coming up to retirement, and it provided myself and my partner an opportunity to buy in to some of the key intellectual properties of the business at the time. And as they were winding it down, they were looking to exit and to try and reimagine it for what's been a fast-changing legal field, and particularly within clinical negligence and personal injury, with a lot of mergers and acquisitions and change of the law in recent number of years. It's been very important to rethink what we've done and to bring it back to tech. The first thing we did was to go immediately paperless. It's a very simple step, but at those days, back in 2017, 2018, many people were still using paper. Whilst our company previously with the previous owners was using a lot of tech, we doubled down on that. So we've launched systems which allow us to quality control experts. We've got systems which allow us to manage the flows, custom built processes which allow us to manage the flows that solicitors want. therefore we can do it significantly more efficiently than, for sure, than the solicitor. And I would like to think, based on the feedback we get from our clients, significantly better than many other parties out there looking and working in the same industry. So it's about, for example, splitting out the specialisms, using technology to understand which experts do what. So it's all very well asking for a neurologist, but what type of neurologist do you want? It's all very well asking for a gastroenterologist, but what type? And in today's modern world, every single year, we see medicine splitting into ever smaller segments. And from a legal perspective, I think it's vital to ensure that when you're instructing an expert, you're instructing someone who has proper subspecialisms within the area you're focusing on. Whether it's an unusual spinal surgery, one of the less common ones, or whether it's some sort of clinical negligence case in an unusual area of cancer. You want experts so that your testimony stands up in court, and we've developed a lot of systems. So, for example, we have more than 13,000 medical consultants on our panel, and we know every single expert's subspecialisms, not just their primary discipline, but also their subspecialism. So if you as a solicitor or an insurer, a defendant, a claimant, come to me and go, I need a respiratory physician, I go dealing with who and what. It's not enough to just go respiratory because there are so many different types and different aspects, and it really makes a difference to the report and to the quality if you can narrow down the detail.
That's very interesting because there's a plus and a minus there. We're going deeper into silos. We're getting more and more about less and less, if you like. Going deeper into silos, which means there are more people requiring to be an expert, as you say. Orthopedics, where you a neck, a back, a shoulder, a knee, an ankle. And because you need more in these specialties, then these people in the smaller ones don't get to court that often, or don't get to do reports that often. So their skills sometimes at report writing and things isn't as good as somebody who did a lot of reports at a more general level before. So how do you assess the quality of the expert and that expert in court, before you end up there?
Well, that's a really interesting point, and I have to say, probably I agree with you, but I also possibly slightly disagree with you. There is a tremendous value in time and volume. So if an expert has spent a long time writing expert witness reports and has a lot of experience in writing them and has done a large volume of them, that in itself can provide a lot of value to the expert themselves in terms of progressing their skills within this sector and becoming a high quality expert. However, it's not, in my opinion, the deciding factor, the volume they do. So there are a tremendous number of consultants that I know and work with who, due to the clinical pressures, don't have an awful lot of time. They're pressured within their clinical practice. They may also even have private clinical practices that they run, and arguably they've got their research, and again, on top of that, they've got family, and they have to have a family and friends life as well. How dare they? But I see that the key is good quality training. One thing which is significantly lacking in the expert witness space is peer-to-peer mentoring and support. Often experts have a friendly colleague they can speak to. Many of them don't. They live in silos, as you mentioned. And for doctors and surgeons who, within a clinical sphere throughout their whole career, almost always work as multidisciplinary teams, suddenly, for many, it can hit them quite hard if you become an expert witness. The opinion's your own. You have no one to speak to. And I think the way to get around that for an expert is to, well, first of all, work with good quality companies who can provide you feedback and support and guidance, particularly in the early stages. It's also to build yourself a high quality network of colleagues who you're able to tap into. And if you don't know who they are, I'm sure a few questions around your particular trust, you'll uncover a few people who have been doing it for years. But training is very important, and it comes in many guises. And I'm not one here to say one is better than the other, but I think we very much see it that those consultants who go on some sort of training course, but then keep updated. They go on an occasional day. After all, as a medical expert witness and as a medical consultant, part of your role is a lot of CPD hours. You get time to do this work. So dedicate some of that to doing expert witness study to continue to develop your skills, and make sure you've got great people who you can speak to get advice and guidance, and ask your solicitors who you're working with, I have to say. And
how do you, I mean, you're offering lawyers expert witnesses, you know, when
so
they
what do
come.
we do? So what do we do to
How
quality
do
control?
you guarantee that you know, that quality?
Well, that's a slightly different point. I would say from our perspective, we have quite a few steps in order to quality control a medical expert. Obviously, you've got your initial step. So someone coming on board, you need to review their CV, ensure that the clinical experience they're saying that they want to undertake from an expert witness perspective is reflected. You want to understand what training courses they've done. You want to actually check the GMC register to make sure they're still there, or alternative register for allied health professionals. You'll be surprised by how many people say they're on, but perhaps have recently come off or are not in current practice. Now, that's not to say they're not a good expert witness, but it's important to be transparent and allow the solicitor to decide whether they wish to continue instructing that expert. Throughout the process, we do a lot of work as well. So we would quality control every report before we return it. Not in terms of the expert evidence itself and the opinion, that's not our position to do, but to ensure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, whether or not the report actually answers the questions asked within the letter of instruction. Are all the grammatical errors sorted and obtained? And often experts who have got good structure to their reports tend to be the ones who think through logically their opinions. But the key biggest thing we've done is after every single report, we send an automated email to the instructing party several weeks later to ask them for feedback. Feedback, first of all, for the service that we do, and then feedback on the expert's evidence provided. And I have to say, for all of your solicitor listeners out there, please keep giving feedback. Give it when it's not asked, and give it when it's asked. The more feedback you give, the more you're inputting into our industry to improve it. We take all of that information and it goes back into our system. It goes back into the calculator, so to speak, and every expert's profile has one. And that then allows us to amalgamate the feedback from more than 70 firms who are instructing us every month regularly, and the dozens and dozens of solicitors who instruct us on an occasional basis when they have a tricky requirement. But it all throws back into our system. And it allows us, when you turn up next week to ask us for an expert, I know, based on all of this feedback we've got, who to nominate to you. Our team know who to nominate to you because we're amalgamating this feedback from across the industry.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important that you do look for that feedback. So lawyers who come to you, and a lot of them do, know that these are people that you're standing up for, that you have seen their work, that they have been given feedback on.
Yes.
And you know, that doesn't mean that everybody gets it right every time. None of us are perfect, not even me, but we're not perfect.
100%. And can I just mention as well, because you've just said that, like you just said, ensuring that someone's looked at one of their previous reports. And that's a key thing that we also offer our clients. And you mention it. Request a report. If you're instructing a new expert as a solicitor, whether it's via ourselves or whether it's directly with an expert, ask for an anonymized report. There should be no reason why an expert shouldn't be comfortable with providing you an anonymized report. And we do it as standard. So if, for example, a new solicitor came to us looking for some sort of gynae-oncologist, perhaps, dealing with a certain type of issue, we send them several options and they go, well, actually, expert number 2 looks fantastic, but I've never instructed them before. It's always a risk. So our clients can turn around and go, could I see an anonymized report? And we have them on file. And if they're not recent ones, we ensure that we request them from the expert and we will provide them to the solicitor. And that gives you a bit more assurance that you kind of get a better understanding of what you're getting.
Yeah, you get a feel for what you're going to get.
100%.
Because the numbers of reports I see, that don't come to conclusion. They just tell you lots of things, or they don't answer the question. They don't find the fundamental question. I mean, what are you looking for is the fundamental question. What are you asking the court to decide on if it ever got there? What is the one thing or the two things that are going to make or break this case? And you get a load of waffle, and I've seen 30 and 40 pages worth, and you read to the end of it and you lose the will to live. That they just have written everything out and photocopied everything and stuck it in there and then said, and they were hurt. And you're going, oh dear, put your money where your mouth is. So lastly, let's move on a little bit. You're doing a business now. A lot of young lawyers today are thinking more than the older guys. Older people would be thinking of their practice as a pension, that they're going to build it, sell it. Somebody was going to come in and take over, and by doing that would give them some money and get a pension. But that's becoming less and less now. They're finding more and more difficulty finding young people who are going to come in and buy it on. And so you're going then to bigger companies who want to buy businesses, and they really don't have a clue what a bigger company would be looking for. They don't know what EBITDA is. They don't know their books. They don't, the old school stuff doesn't work anymore. So how do you plan for scalability and exit?
Well, it's a very big question, that, and perhaps I can split it into two: scalability and exit. And if I touch upon exit first, I'm not looking to exit, for the record. I'm actually looking at expansion and making some strategic acquisitions at the moment within our industry. So quite the opposite from my perspective. But in terms of scalability and in terms of, I guess, advice for those people out there who are considering this, it's about ensuring you've got structure. Are you having something as simple as a monthly finance meeting, weekly finance meetings as you grow? Ensuring you're looking at your P&L, your balance sheets. And I think the key thing is all these things sound like accountancy things for those who perhaps don't do them, but they're vital for any business owner to understand their figures. And if you own a law firm, you are a business. First and foremost, your service is to provide a fantastic legal service to your clients, but you are a business, and it's on you to learn and understand the workings of that, and read books, take advice. In fact, you mentioned it's a book I read recently, and I've actually started using, is Traction by Gino Wickman, and it's not a new concept. It's an old book. You can see I've got all of my notes in it still. He runs a system, and there are many out there. This is one which has resonated with me, called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it's a very, very structured approach to managing and running your business so that you're in control. You understand what you're doing. And control doesn't mean you go absolutely crazy with telling people what to do. Control means delegation and trust, and employing great people who are often better than you at things to support and to be responsible for different aspects of your business, and training, providing training to your staff. Just last week, we did a full-day training session on complaints handling. Solicitors can often be challenging to work with. Understandably, they're under a lot of pressure, often court deadlines. And so it's important that our team are constantly aware of how best to support our clients. So growth is about structure. Growth is about trust and delegation. And it's also mostly about people, getting the right people in who will really help support how you develop a company. And I'm really pleased that over the last few years we've taken on board some fantastic people who are really driving things forward within their sections and making a real difference to our company.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to end there. That it's a people business. They're people businesses, and you've got to have communication skills. You have to be able to delegate, you know, and you have to allow people to grow. You have to allow people to take decisions and make mistakes. Learning, you know, is the difference between ego and experience. If you learn from mistakes, you're learning from experience. Otherwise, you're just working on ego. And that's not a good place to be. And we all make mistakes. You hope they're not too mad, and you hope that people will touch you on the shoulder before it goes too far. But we all will do that. But to learn from your mistakes is one of the most powerful ways of doing it, and make sure that you do. If you don't learn from your mistakes, that's ego. And it's about doing that, knowing to learn from them, and knowing that your business is a business of people and how to work and act with people. You know, Leo, it's been great today. I have really enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you today. You obviously have a completely different mindset coming from sales, and a lot of our listeners don't know about sales. They don't even think, I mean, in medicine, sales, you're kidding, but we do persuade people, and they don't get it that persuasion and sales is the same thing. And, you know, you're coming from a marketing point of view, and we look at pain points and what are the things. And the pain point for solicitor, as you say, is trying to find experts who will help them to determine whether there is a case, and if there is, to help them understand what the fundamental questions are so that they can form a legal strategy to deal with it. And I think if they listen to the things you said today, I think that will help them very much in their career. Leo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.